Welcome to this tutorial. We're going to be looking at a short navigational route using TACAN VOR DME and then an ILS approach into Coningsby using the CJ simulation Typhoon. I'm going to do most of it using Autopilot, and I'll be guiding you through the various setups on how to achieve that. So we're going to start off at RAF Coningsby. I'll start up the jet and I will be setting up the frequencies for the TACAN and VORs, and then I'll be setting up the autopilot. When we take off from Coningsby, I'll be doing it in be taking off manually, and then as soon as we're airborne and the wheels are up, we'll be engaging the auto throttle, and then at 500 feet I'll engage the autopilot. We're going to be heading using the heading bug on a direction of 251 and checking the TACAN bearing to make sure that we're going to be heading towards Cranwell. And then as we get towards Cranwell, I'll be setting the course deviation bar up to track up towards Scampton, because we know that it's going to be on a 351 degrees at 16.9 nautical miles from Cranwell, so we can use that TACAN to actually track towards Scampton. As we get towards Scampton, from the course deviation bar, I'll switch to the heading bug so that I can then set up to channel in to Ottringham's VOR, and we'll set that to a bearing of 034 degrees, and again use the course deviation bar to fly along that track. Then as we get towards the Ottringham's VOR, again I'll reset the course deviation bar to fly at a heading of 150 degrees, and then as we fly back down towards Coningsby, I'll start setting up the ILS. We'll switch over to using the heading bug to fly the course, and then as we start to engage with the ILS, we'll switch over to the ILS on the autopilot and let the autopilot fly us in back into Coningsby. So with that, let's jump into the jet and give it a go. So here we are in the CJ simulation Typhoon. I'm just going to quickly start up the aircraft. Okay, so all the engines are spooling. Let's set this up. Just hide the stick so I can move our map to this window over here. Check our fuel status. Okay, stores. Alright, let's start setting up the frequencies. Okay, so we're going to start off by setting the TACAN. So our first one is going to be Cranwell on 121 X-ray. Sorry. So as you see, it's already here. But if I want to type it in, it'll be 121 and enter, and that would tune in the 121 X-ray TACAN for Cranwell. If we just click on TACAN here, you'll see the TACAN Cranwell is tuned in. 251 degrees bearing on an 11.75 nautical miles away. Okay, so we're actually going to use the heading bug to fly towards it to start with. So I'm actually going to press the heading there so the heading bug appears, and it allows me to change that direction. Now this is where the heading bug is currently set, 001, so we'll adjust that to 251. Okay, and then we set our second leg of the flight, which is going to be towards Scampton on a bearing of 351 Cranwell. So I'm actually going to set the course deviation bar to that now, and that's where this bearing comes in here. So we'll change that to 351. Alright, and then we'll set up the other frequencies. So after we've flown to Scampton, we're going to fly up towards Ottringham's VOR. So we'll set that into rad 1, so that's 113.9. And then we'll set in, tune into the ILS for Coningsby, which is 111.15. Okay, and now we'll set up the autopilot. So I'll click on the AP button up here, and we're actually going to try and fly an altitude of 3,000 feet. So I've set that to I've set that to speed cell so that I can change my speed to 420 knots. So what speed cell allows the aircraft to do is it allows you to select an actual speed that you're going to fly to. The aircraft's going to maintain, so we'll get to 420 knots, takes a bit of clicking. And then the altitude, we'll set climb, so it's going to climb up to an altitude of 3,000 feet. Okay. Alright, let's just quickly check the QFE. Alright, 1012 appears. Okay, so the aircraft's set, we can start to taxi. Check there's no aircraft taxiing by. All clear. And the runway in use today is runway 25. Which is handy because we're going to take off and we can pretty much fly straight on to Cromwell. So while we're taxiing, I'll just talk through the advantages and disadvantages of using either the heading bug or the course deviation bar when tracking your route. So the heading bug will literally, the aircraft will fly in the direction that you set the heading bug. Obviously the disadvantage of this is with it doesn't take into account any wind speeds and directions. So if you set your heading bug south, if you've got wind direction from any direction, then you'll be flown off course gradually. Obviously depending on which direction and the speed will depend how much you're flying off course. So what you can do in that case is you can use the bearing that's shown in the bottom left hand side of the HUD down here to see if you actually are deviating off track, and you can account for that. Okay, so pointing the aircraft maybe slightly more into wind to try and stay on track. But what the course deviation bar does, what that is, allows you to point the direction you want to fly to or from a specific nav aid, and the aircraft will actually stick to that path and stick to that course, taking into account any wind speeds and direction. Okay. Okay, so here we are at runway 25, the whole point 25, and we'll just do some final checks. So we know we're going to be flying at an altitude of 3,000 feet, 420 knots. I've got the heading button selected, so it's going to fly us on a heading of 251 degrees. I've already got the course deviation bar set up for our next bearing of 351. So we're going to take off, get the gear up. I'm then going to select auto throttle, which will fly us at 420 knots. And once we get to 500 feet altitude, I'm then going to switch on the autopilot so that it can track us towards Cromwell, which is about 12 nautical miles away. Okay, so without further ado, here we go. Just checking if there's no one on final. Okay. Knots, pitch, airborne, gear up. Okay, put on the auto throttle. Get to 500 feet and we'll switch on the autopilot. So now the aircraft is going to fly itself. It's going to climb to 3,000 feet. Maintain 420 knots airspeed and fly us on a direction of 251. We can see actually that Cromwell is now 252, so I'm going to adjust that course slightly to 252 degrees. And it's currently 8 miles away, so we can zoom in. Yeah, there we can see it just on the nose of the aircraft there, so perfect. As we said, we've already got the course deviation bar set to 351. That will allow us to track the TACAN, track off of Cromwell's TACAN and go up straight towards Scampton, which is 17 nautical miles from Cromwell. So as we get a little bit closer, I will soon switch to follow the course deviation bar. So we're 3 nautical miles away. I'm going to switch it on now, so I'm going to hit this track button here, and the aircraft will start to turn right, and it's going to follow this course deviation bar. Now you can see that the fact that this line is off to essentially the left hand side of that arrow suggests that we're to the right of that track. Now what might happen here is we're going to fly over that track, and that line will come in through the centre and on to the right hand side. There it goes now. So that now means that we've just crossed over the ideal track between Cromwell and Scampton. So what the aircraft will do is fly around and then fly back towards the arrow essentially, and then bring that line back into the middle, and that means that we're on the direct path between Cromwell and Scampton. And what we can do is keep an eye on this. We said that Scampton is 16.9 miles from Cromwell, so as we get towards 16 or 17 miles, we should be able to see it in those. But here's Wallington that we're going to be passing over just here. Clouds look to be right at the altitude we want to be flying today, so I'm actually going to reduce the altitude to 2,000 feet, try and maintain VFR conditions. Okay, so here we are. So we're flying back towards the course, and as that line comes back in, the aircraft will adjust slightly. And there we are. So we're directly on the path between Cromwell and Scampton. Once we get to Scampton, we're going to be turning towards Ottringham's VOR. We're already tuned in to RAD 1, so that's 113.9. So we're coming up to 10 miles away, so 10 miles from Cromwell, so we've got 6 miles to go, and there's Scampton there on the nose. So what I'm actually going to do is I can see that now, so we'll switch to the heading bug. And the heading bug's going to automatically jump to the direction that we're flying. So now the aircraft's just going to follow that heading bug. That allows me to change the course deviation bar. So I'm going to change that to 034, which you can see down here. So there's 16334. Okay, again the line's over here because I need to change now to VR1. Sorry, and then I'll change to 034. There we go. Okay, so we're coming over Scampton now, so I'm going to hit the track button. And again, we are going to overshoot that course, and the aircraft will fly back onto that bearing. Fuel is good. tracking on 113.9 because there's Ottringham's VOR. We're currently 24 miles away. And then once we get to Ottringham, I'm going to use that same VOR to fly away from it and head back towards, not quite towards Cranwell, because we want to head towards where we're going to be joining on to the ILS. So we're actually heading a bearing of 150. So as we get closer to Ottringham, I'll do the same thing. I'll change to follow the heading bug, and then I will adjust the course deviation bar to 150. Here we are, so we've just joined onto the exact course now, between Scampton and Ottringham on a bearing 034. And this is a really handy tool, especially when you want to fly towards a military airfield. You can tune into the TACAN, you can obviously select which direction. Fly directly along the runway, then you choose the runway heading, and it will help you line up with that runway, flying on that exact bearing. Okay, so you can see mouth of the river, and just on that bit of land beyond is where Ottringham's VOR is. So we're not going to fly all the way over it. What I'm going to do is shorten, you can't tell on the side, from the side there, but on the left hand side, is I'm going to cut the corner a little bit. So we're going to put it to the heading bug, and then we're going to change our course deviation bar to 150. Alright, and we're going to select track. So now the aircraft will make a right hand turn and start to follow course of 150 from Ottringham's VOR DME. Okay, so there you go, there's the course deviation bar start to come back in, so the aircraft will start to level out and will maintain that course. Now we're already at 2,000 feet. What I'm actually going to do to join onto the ILS is I'm actually going to climb a little bit, so I'm going to change back to here, I'm going to change the altitude to 3,000 feet, so the aircraft is going to climb. Need to be above 2,000 feet, at least 10 miles an hour from the ILS. Our air economy speed. Now we're actually flying on this heading. I'm comfortable that we're not deviating too much, so I'm going to change to the heading bug now, and I'm going to choose. So we've already typed in economy speed ILS 111.15. So I'm going to come into the aids button, click on the hidden button that's behind here. And I'm going to hit VOR 2. There we go. So now we've switched on to economy speed ILS 111.15. It's already, now with an ILS, it's already told you what the direction of the runway is. So that's done that automatically. So you don't need to touch the course deviation bar when tuning into an ILS. Now if we want to, we can actually tell as well. So it's 24 miles out. Okay, and we wanted to, we could actually tune in to economy TACAN as well, so 48 X-ray. could actually switch quickly to that TACAN, and it will tell us that Coningsby is currently 23 miles away at a bearing of 208. Right, but let's switch back to the ILS. Now this leg is about 28 miles, or probably 20 miles, so we'll start heading south. We're following the bearing, so I'm going to automatically change the heading button to fly south. And I might actually start slowing the aircraft down, so I'm going to change this, swap this down to 350. Okay. And here we are. So you can see here that the aircraft's picked up on the bearing for the ILS and also for the glide path. So the fact that the line's up here says that we're below the glide path, which is good, and that we are right of track. With the line over to the left, we need to fly to the left of track in order to bring this into the middle. So as we get a little closer to that, what I'm going to do shortly is then select the autopilot to follow in onto the ILS. Okay, so 16 nautical miles out. I'm flying south, joining the track for the ILS, so what I'm going to do now is hit the approach button there, and I'm also going to change speed cell to speed AWLS, so now the aircraft will automatically control the speed that we fly in towards the airport, and the aircraft's automatically going to adjust to account for the glide slope and also for the track. So it's currently tracking so that it can join on to the ILS bearing. So the aircraft, we're still right of track at the minute, and we're still below the glide path, 13 nautical miles out from Coningsby. So again, I'm not having to do any of the controls here, this is flying itself. What will happen as we get closer to the airfield is a couple of hundred feet from the runway, the aircraft will automatically disengage both autopilot and the auto thrust, which we have to fly the final flaring manually in order to touch down onto the runway. Okay, so you can see the course, the glide path is engaged, so as that gets down to that middle button, you'll see the aircraft starting to descend, and we're 10 nautical miles out, so I'm actually going to lower the gear at this stage. Okay, so there we are, we've caught the glide path. We're still slightly right of the track, the aircraft is bringing us in. So again, the aircraft's controlling the speed, it's controlling the rate of descent. In fact, I think you can see the runway just off to the right hand side there. Won't be long now until we start seeing that course deviation bar coming into the centre, and the aircraft will start to turn right to line up. There it is, so there's the course deviation bar starting to come in. The aircraft rolling slightly right. So we're over the runway, just slightly left of track at the minute, but we are directly on the glide path. That's why that line is staying on that central dot. 143, 142 knots. My gear is down. Still 2.5, just short 2.5 miles out from it. So as we said, as we get closer, you'll notice that that auto throttle bottom will disengage and the autopilot will automatically come off, and I'll fly the final flare and land it manually. There we are, so it's disengaged. So now it's down to me. Hold idle. There's touchdown. Let the nose come down gradually. And then once the nose touches down, we can engage the brake. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, found it very useful. Taxi off the runway, heading back to base. So thank you for listening and watching. Catch you again very soon.